In this session, we will understand about what is Microsoft Azure all about, its architecture, how to work on Azure portal application, what is Azure Resource Manager, and the pricing policy for Azure subscription. The price depends upon multiple factors such as type of service and capacity model. We will understand more about it in later session. The learning objective of this session is to understand about Azure. We will get familiar about Azure portal, how to work on it, and how to utilize Azure Resource Manager. So, what is Microsoft Azure? Azure is a cloud computing platform designed by Microsoft to successfully build, deploy, and manage applications and services through a global network of data centers. It is used to be known as Windows Azure, which was later renamed as Microsoft Azure in 2014. Microsoft Azure is not the first one who started to provide cloud services. There were some other players also available in market which were providing cloud services such as Amazon. Cloud computing services falls into different categories and platform as a service, that is PaaS, is one of them. Azure initially was offering only PaaS services. We will learn more about these services in upcoming session in detail. Azure provides various software services to be delivered over the internet such as Hotmail, Bing, and Office 365. It is also one of the cloud computing service providers by Azure. Azure operates in 54 regions all over the world, which is more than any cloud providers. Now let us go through in detail more about Azure. Azure provides an open and flexible cloud platform. The benefits of the cloud computing services include the ability to scale elastically. That means delivering the right amount of IT resources, for example, more or less computing power, storage, bandwidth, when it is needed and from the right geographic location. So it is very flexible in nature. Second, it allows us to build, deploy, and manage different applications across global network. It provides a global network of data centers which are utilized for providing different types of cloud services. Third, we can build applications using any language, tool, or framework, as Azure supports a broad selection of operating systems, programming languages, frameworks, databases, and devices. It helps us to build, manage, and deploy application quickly and easily. It helps to draw insights from multiple data sources, including some ERP and CRM systems, web and big data, and integrate your apps with the tools you use every day, such as Power BI and Microsoft Excel. Azure also allows us to integrate public cloud applications with our existing IT environment. The public clouds are owned and operated by a third-party cloud service provider which deliver their computing resources like servers and storage over the internet like Azure. So we can utilize these public clouds for various services with its existing infrastructure maintained on a private network. So Azure offers more than 600 services in terms of computing, in terms of networking, in terms of mobile services, in terms of storage services, data management. That's the most important part for us in the upcoming session because we have to utilize lots of BI kind of resources to be managed in the cloud. Messaging services, media services, etc. Now let us understand more about Azure data centers. Azure platform is supported by a growing network of Microsoft managed data centers which are globally distributed all over the world. Azure supports 17 languages and 24 currencies, all backed by Microsoft's $15 billion investment in global data center infrastructure. Azure is continuously investing in the latest infrastructure and technologies with a focus on high reliability, operational excellence, cost effectiveness, environmental sustainability, and a trustworthy online experience for customers and partners worldwide. If we talk about the architecture, data center is a facility composed of network computers and storage that businesses or other organizations use to organize, process, store large amount of data. A business typically relies heavily upon the applications, services, and data contained within a data center, making it a focal point and critical asset for everyday operations. It consists of clusters of thousands of servers, storage subsystems, networking switches, routers, firewall, as well as the cabling and the physical racks, which are used to organize and interconnect the IT equipment. A data center must also contain an adequate infrastructure such as power distribution and supplemental power subsystems, including electrical switching, uninterruptible power supplies, backup generators, and so on. They provides high-speed, redundant intra-data center network and high-speed inter-data center and internet connectivity to provide uninterrupted services to clients. It also provides replication facility for data among same or multiple geographic locations to deal with unexpected situations. We will learn more about this option in the storage solution. Data center designs also recognize the importance of energy efficiency. A simple data center may need only a few kilowatt of energy, but an enterprise scale data center installation can demand tens of megawatts or more. Today, the Green Data Center, which is designed for minimum environment impact through the use of low emission building materials, catalytic converters, and alternative energy technologies, is growing in popularity. It contains n number of servers that runs Windows Server 2012. Azure has more global regions than any other cloud providers, offering the scale needed to bring applications closer to users around the world, preserving data residency and offering comprehensive compliance and resiliency options for customers. As you can see in this picture, we have multiple data centers all over the world in West US, West Central US, East US, even Brazil. If I talk about Europe, we can see in the North Europe, UK West, France, Germany. If I talk about Africa, you can see in South Africa North, South Africa West. If I talk about India, you can see three residents in India also. That is West India, Central India, South India, China, Southeast Asia, and many more. Now, let us understand more about Azure Resource Manager. Azure Resource Manager, which is called ARM, helps us to deploy, monitor, and manage solutions resources as a group. So, what is exactly ARM and what is exactly a resource? So, the infrastructure for your application is typically made up of many components. For example, when we start working on Azure portal, we can create a virtual machine, we can create storage account to manage the data, we can create a virtual network or web application, we can create databases, database server, data warehouses, and other third-party services. All of these are what? The components. Azure Resource Manager enables you to work with all these resources or components in our solution as a group. So the advantage is what? We can deploy, we can update, or we can delete all the resources or component for your solution in a single coordinated app operation. So there are some terms which are very helpful to understand Azure ARM. First is resource. Resource is a manageable item that is available through Azure. Some common resources are virtual machine, storage account, web application, database, and virtual network, but there are many more. Second is called resource group. It is nothing but a kind of container that holds related resources for an Azure solution. The resource group can include all the resources for the solution or only those resources that you want to manage as a group. It depends upon you and how you can decide to allocate resources to this resource groups based on what makes the most sense for your organization. And third is called resource provider, a service that supplies the resources you can deploy and manage through Resource Manager. Each resource provider offers operations for working with the resources that are deployed. Some common resource providers are Microsoft.compute, which supplies the virtual machine resource, Microsoft.storage, which supplies the storage account resource, and Microsoft.web, which supplies resources related to web application. So Azure Resource Manager provides several benefits. First, we can deploy, manage, and monitor all the resources for your solution as a group rather than handling these resources individually. So, if we are building any kind of solution for any organization or any company, instead of creating components or resources in a single individual manner, we can store them inside a particular group that is called resource group. And that is a better way to manage them effectively and efficiently. We can define the dependencies between the resources so they are deployed in the correct order. Apart from that, if you want to apply access control to all the services in your resource group, because role-based access control is natively integrated into the management platform. So what RBAC is, that we will see in some later slides. With Resource Manager, you can control who in your organization can perform actions on the resources. You manage permission by defining roles and adding the users or groups to that roles. For critical resources, you can apply an explicit lock that prevents users from deleting or modifying the resource. You can clarify your organization's billing by viewing costs for a group of resources. So there are some important factors to consider when defining your resource group. First, all the resources in your group should share the same life cycle. You deploy, update, and delete them together. If one resource, for example, a database server, needs to exist on a different deployment cycle, it should be in another resource group. For example, suppose if we have a database server and I need to utilize that server in multiple solutions, but the problem is what? In different solutions, we might require some different capacity model and different life cycle. So it will be quite difficult for a single database server to provide services to different solutions. So it is better that we can create a new database server for different solution and it can be stored in another resource group. Each resource can only exist in one resource group. You can add or remove a resource to a resource group at any time. A resource group can contain resources that reside in different regions. So again, let's suppose if I create a resource group which contain a storage solution, which contain a database server, which contain a data factory. So these storage, data factory, and database server can also be in different regions. A resource can interact with the resources in another resource groups. This interaction is common when two resources are related but do not share the same life cycle. So for example, suppose if we have a first group called A, which contain a storage solution, and we have a group B, which contain a database solution. So let's say suppose if I want to migrate my entire database from my on-premise system to the cloud, it can be done via storage solution. In this situation, I can utilize the storage from another group. That is quite possible. So resources can interact with other resources in the other groups also. We will see all these things once we do the practical.